Entitled parent gets frustrated no one is paying attention to her kid's Nintendo Switch. So I was on a train going to London for holiday and I was in a very cramped carriage. Entitled mom and kid get on seat across from me. Kid pulls out a Nintendo Switch and starts playing. Nothing out of ordinary as it was a long journey and many people had laptops and the sort. The issue starts when kid starts slowly turning up the game Pokemon so the noises were squeaky and annoying. He keeps turning it up slightly. Entitled mom is looking at people with a sort of angry look. She looks at me and I look at her confused and she nods in the direction of kid. I just nod and continue looking out the window. Entitled mom starts fake coughing and clearing her throat. Whenever someone looked at her she nodded towards the kid. So I'm sat here really confused about the entitled mom intentions when the kid turns the switch up to full and starts blaring Pokemon. Everyone turns around to look at him and entitled mom looks happy. Then the ticket dude comes over and politely asks kid to turn it down. Kid agrees and turns it down and continues playing. Entitled mom looks furious but doesn't say anything. 5 peaceful minutes pass until kids lean over and asks if I want to play Mario Kart with him. I politely decline and kid doesn't make a fuss. However, entitled mom glares at me and says, "Excuse me?" Me, pardon? "Why won't you play with my son?" "I'm sorry, I just don't want to and I'm getting off soon." "Well, you should. My son has done well in school and I have bought him that Nintendo as a reward. He should get the attention he deserves." I just laugh and continue staring out the window. Entitled mom gets up, yanks one of the controllers from kid and practically throws it at me. Me, "Excuse me? What the heck are you doing?" "That Nintendo was very expensive and you should acknowledge that and play with him as he deserves it." I hand the controller back to the kid. Me, "I don't want to play with your son, leave me alone." Entitled mom starts fake laughing really loud. "Ha ha ha ha, you're just jealous and poor. Who else will play with my son?" She looks around the train at random people who all just avoid eye contact. "Ha ha ha, you are all poor and can't afford it. That's it. None of you care about your children enough." She looks triumphant and sits back down. She starts saying stuff like, "Oh, what game is that? It looks very fun and cool." And describing features of the Switch very loud and keeps mentioning how expensive it was and how only parents like her can afford it. Then this absolute legend of a guy sat across from entitled kid and entitled mom reaches into his bag and pulls out a Switch which was a weird special edition one. Guy, "Wow, your son's Switch is very cool, but mine is more expensive and better." He was absolutely joking, but entitled mom didn't get it. "Seems as though you can't afford mine and you aren't a good parent." Entitled mom looks gobsmacked, but kid looks really excited and asks entitled mom if he can play with guy. No, you can't. We are going off now." Entitled mom and kid get up and move to the next carriage. Guy looks very happy with himself and he just puts the Switch away. Thankfully the rest of the journey was fine. My girlfriend, who will be known as Kay, is bi, so we decided to go to a local pride festival. However, I'm straight. I was going to support her and the LGBTQ community. So we are at the festival and she went to talk to someone who she knew from school, so I was on my own. Then this kid around my age, entitled kid, comes up to me and says, "Hey handsome," and he was decked out in pride gear. He even had rainbow hair. I told him that I was straight and was just here to support my girlfriend, who is bi. He then said, "Oh, I see," and walked off while I continued to scroll through r/memes. A few minutes later a girlfriend comes back and we get some food. Once we sit down at a table, I see the kid coming over to me with his mom, entitled mom, and she says this, "Entitled kid told me that you are straight, so why are you here?" in the most Karen-ish tone ever. I then say, "I'm here supporting my girlfriend, who is bi. As you know, you do certain things for your significant other, and I'm sure you have done for your wife." Her face then contours with anger. She starts yelling at me how disrespectful I am for assuming her sexuality and some other stuff I don't remember. Then I tell her this, "If I shouldn't be here, then neither should you." My girlfriend starts cracking up, so entitled mom slaps her. Flippin' slaps her. I start saying things to her that I'm not proud of, and then she has the nerve to say this. "Unless you date my son, I will call the cops on you for rape and homophobia." I go over and hug my girlfriend, who is crying because she was slapped. She had a red hand on her cheek, and I told entitled mom if she calls the cops, we could easily get her arrested for assault of a minor. I reached for my phone, and the entitled kid slaps it out of my hand. I go to grab it from entitled kid and she screeches, "That's it! I'm calling the cops on you because you raped my son!" And I'm just sitting there in utter confusion when my girlfriend starts screaming bloody murder about how entitled mom slapped her, and there were some security guards around who asked what the problem was, and immediately saw the hand on girlfriend's cheek and grabbed entitled mom and left entitled kid standing there. I ended up taking girlfriend to coffee and we had a great time. "You are getting married? But what about my cruise?" GC, good cousin. GH, good husband. GC's husband. EC, entitled cousin. Good cousin's twin sister. You can tell her evil cousin too, both work. So this story doesn't involve me too much, but I know quite a lot about entitled cousin's actions and behavior through the stories family members and good cousin told me. Ever since we were little kids, my cousin, good cousin, and I have been best buds. We lived only a few miles away from one another, so we would bike to each other's house, play in our backyards, and play video games. Good cousin comes from an extremely wealthy family. Her dad, my uncle, started a business when he was 20 and it has been super successful to the point there are now several large locations across the globe. Even though this family is crazy rich, they live a very modest lifestyle. They live in a small 2-story home on a few acres of land, and the large pond takes up most of it. The one lavish thing they do is that every 2 or 3 years they go on a cruise. Good cousin is one of 3 children. She has an older brother and her identical twin sister, entitled cousin. You may think the good twin, evil twin scenario is only seen on the TV screen, but good cousin and entitled cousin are the real world equivalent. Good cousin is kind and generous, while entitled cousin is selfish and entitled. Entitled cousin always had this idea in her head that because her dad was so wealthy, she didn't have to lift a finger in life to get what she wanted. Good things just came to her, good cousin and their brother. But good cousin had the common sense to know that she can't always rely on daddy's money. Despite getting pretty much everything they wanted growing up, good cousin and her brother never had entitled attitudes. Their parents are also super nice, so entitled cousin was always the evil standout of the family. Entitled cousin's attitude only got worse as time went on. Eventually, entitled cousin got married and had a kid, a boy. Entitled cousin's husband is just as nasty as she is, so they were kind of made for each other. Entitled cousin always wanted to rub her child in good cousin's face like she wanted gloat about having a kid before she did. Good cousin had a history of bad relationships, including those that involved verbal and physical abuse. One time, she came to her sister for advice after her boyfriend beat her. Entitled cousin had the nerve to blame her weight and not using makeup to make herself more attractive. Good cousin was afraid to date anyone after her last relationship disaster. But that changed when she finally met the man of her dreams. Good husband. I met good husband personally and he's a giant teddy bear of a guy. He's the perfect guy to help heal good cousin's old wounds and give her the loving, happy life she deserves. Then, nearly 2 years after they met, good cousin and good husband were engaged. The entire family was thrilled that good cousin finally got a man of her dreams, and her father wanted to throw a buttload of money to her to help pay for the beautiful wedding. For future reference, he did the same thing for entitled cousin when she got married. Yet entitled cousin was not happy about how extravagant good cousin's wedding is going to be. Good cousin wanted to be married at Niagara Falls and invite basically everyone she knew, and her father was going to pay for pretty much all of it. Entitled cousin was furious. She talked to good cousin and their father about the wedding and how all the money being spent better not interfere with the family's upcoming cruise. Yes, they still went on the cruise together every few years despite the children being grown and having families of their own. Their father said that, because of the wedding and how expensive it was going to be, the family cruise would have to be pushed back another year or two. Entitled cousin practically exploded. She blamed good cousin for taking the cruise away from her and her precious boy, who was 5 at the point. She said she told her son how they were going on a cruise and how now he's going to be so upset because his selfish aunt wanted to get married instead of giving him happy week in the tropics. Entitled cousin even had the audacity to demand good cousin to reschedule the wedding for the next year so they could go on the cruise instead. Who is normally not a comforting person, had it with her sister's attitude and told her if she wanted to go on a cruise, she would have to pay it for herself. Entitled cousin and her husband were nowhere near as wealthy as their father, and there was no way he was going to reschedule his own daughter's wedding just to give entitled cousin what she wanted. Entitled cousin's ranting went on for weeks, flipping back and forth between blaming her sister for ruining her son's year and begging her father for money to go on a cruise because she and her family deserved it. She drove good cousin to tears and she ended up calling me up for advice. My only advice to her was to give entitled cousin, who normally gets everything, nothing. And by nothing, I mean don't invite her on the wedding, like most sisters would do. Good cousin wanted entitled cousin to be one of her bridesmaids, as she was a bridesmaid at entitled cousin's wedding. Not inviting her would be a major upset for everyone involved, but it just may be the thing to teach entitled cousin a lesson. So she did just that. And flat out told her if she didn't change her attitude, she didn't want it leaving a sour taste at her wedding. Again, entitled cousin blew up shouting at good cousin, calling her all sorts of names, and again blaming her for the cruise being cancelled. Good cousin hung up and decided not to invite her at the wedding. The wedding was amazing and I ended up being the bridesmaid to take entitled cousin's place. Yes, I was invited to the wedding originally, but good cousin didn't want me to be a bridesmaid only because she knew I hated dresses. And I'd rather wear a suit. But I said I'd wear a dress just for her special day. It's been a few years now and good cousin and good husband have a beautiful little girl and have a baby boy on the way. Entitled cousin is still in their lives and is still nasty as ever, but she doesn't come to her father begging for anything anymore, because after her behavior towards him and good cousin, he threatened to leave her out of his will if she continued to pester either of them. Maybe now that she's not going to get everything handed to her on a silver platter, she'll change her attitude for the better, or at least that's what we all wish to happen. Those were 3 great stories. If you wanna hear story, entitled mom tried to kill my puppy because I didn't give it to her kids. Click on the video on the screen. Leave your feedback in the comments below and until the next time, stay awesome.